I think people appreciate other people who can sort of make fun of themselves.
That's Mark Junge, who is pretty much a star on this podcast because of all of the years of work he put in trying to interview people across Wyoming.
I mean, I saw you fixing burgers. They looked delicious. The double burger that you made looked like it was just dripping with goodness.
What's about to transpire here on tape is one of the things that I really, really love about Wyoming. While driving through northwest Wyoming in 1991, Mark decided to stop at a small drive-in with a cartoon picture on its side showing a dead moose flattened between two hamburger buns, crossed by black tire marks. The text around the moose read, "King Cone, home of the Roadkill burger."
When I came by this place and I saw the sign, home of the Roadkill burger, I thought to myself, now there's a bit of creativity.
Then, as if nothing else could be more natural, Mark, who I think had just dropped in to buy that burger, asked the owner if he could interview him.
Over 1 million sold, almost 12 consumed. World famous and almost edible.
That's Tommy Harkness, the owner who, as if nothing could be more natural, totally consented to an interview, and then spent hours talking to Mark as he cleaned up and closed his business that day.
Picking up roadkill's kind of crude. There's whatever we pick up, we mix it. It's not divided. We just throw it all in and grind it together. So that's why no two burgers ever taste the same. Some few people ever ate two of them. I've been here 10 years now, and I got almost a half a page list of survivors.
Mark asked Tommy if he ever eats at his own burger place.
I ate here once.
But you don't make a habit out of it, is that it?
I'll never do it again. I got sick and I missed 3 days' work. I had to close the place. I was off work.
While so many of us are trying very hard not to alienate or disgust our customers or listeners so that maybe our side hustles could one day become our full-time jobs, Tommy seems to be happy to throw complete caution to the wind.
We take the puppies and we feed them raw oysters. When they start waddling, and we stick our fingers down their throat and get special sauce.
By the time Mark had arrived at this 12x16 drive-in, it had been open for 10 years and had sold over 500 Roadkill t-shirts and thousands of pounds of hamburgers that Tommy insisted were made from dead animals that he or his employees had collected from Wyoming's numerous highways.
I hire the kids. They go out at night after work, and they work on a bonus. An animal that's already tenderized, they get 50 cents a pound for it. If they get one that's not tenderized yet, they get 40 cents a pound. If they wash the road tar and stuff off them before they bring it in, I usually give them an extra 10 cents a pound. So,
my favorite aspect of this interview isn't Tommy's roadkill jokes.
Onion rings, those are what were those? Those are ringworms we cut off the back of the roadkill animals, right?
But all of the things that Tommy was willing to share with a relative stranger over the hours of impromptu interview that occurred. At one point, it becomes an autobiography.
I had to live in foster homes throughout my life, and I got locked in rooms and put away with nothing to eat.
A business seminar.
When business is poor, there must be a reason for it, so you don't take something away from the people, you give them more for their money. That's evidently what they need, or business wouldn't have got poor.
A philosophical forum.
If you live in the past, you die in the future.
An opportunity for dad jokes.
Skunk burns your eyes, we don't use it.
Reflections on the recent success of Desert Storm.
If somebody took Pinedale by storm, was butchering the people, I think it'd be awful nice if somebody come up here and liberated us. I guess if you got to do it, we're going to do it and be done with it.
Good-natured Wyoming xenophobia.
The day after I moved in, they should have dynamited the road shut, not let anybody else live here.
And even thoughts on God.
God looks out for us poor dumb fools that believe in him. So you go on, you do your thing, and you live your life.
I don't think Wyoming is the only place where people get in this deep, this quickly, with people they've never met before, but I think it's something we're really good at here. And now, thanks to Mark's recording, I have proof for all of my out-of-state friends and my kids that it's really not that weird for me to talk to strangers as much as I do.
Fell 30 feet and landed on my head. Got up and walked off, drove the airplane off the side of the road.
On this episode of That Doesn't Happen Every Day, in which we interview everyday people about things that don't normally happen every day, we find out how one man keeps his small business afloat, even when he says things like this.
Cockroaches have been eaten now for 4 hours. They should have it all pretty well cleaned up.
And hear points of wisdom from the sage of the Sagebrush at the home of the Roadkill burger.
if you can't have fun, why do it? I have an ultralight. It's probably the only toy I've never gotten tired of. From up there, like say during haying season, you can be up 3, 5, 6, 7,000 feet in the air, and you can smell the hay, or you can drive across the top, fly across the top of a farmhouse on a fall day, 1,000 feet above it. You can smell the bacon coming up out of the chimney.
Tommy Harkness's path to building his own business that's made enough for him to fly in what he calls
Briggs and Stratton engine on a lawn chair
wasn't a smooth one. His story actually began in Iowa in the 1940s.
Teachers, when I was in school, used to pick me out of class, and I quote, "This little here will never make it to be 25. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison or dead." Got out and got in a fight. I went out and got my nose broke a couple times and got my jaw broke once. Got on my bike and let my hair run back and took my cut-off Levi jacket and my leathers and traveled. Yeah, I never rode with gangs because I always figured only rats travel in packs. But I was thrown in jail a few times here and there. Basically, the judge told me I could go to work for these people in their little drive-in restaurant, or I could go to prison. He said I didn't have to go to them. But he said, "You're on your way." He said, "If you want to go to work with these people," he said, "we'll see if you straighten out of it." So, people that took me in finally after I got straightened around a little asked me. I asked them what I could do, and they said, "Someday, if you ever get a chance, help somebody else out."
At some point, Tommy began to find construction jobs across the U.S., eventually finding himself in Wyoming on a hunting trip.
And we went up on top of the big butte up here behind us that looks over this valley. And we stayed overnight. I stood out and I looked out over the top of it, seen the valley. It was cold, it was clear, it was beautiful, and I said, "That's where I'm going to live."
Tommy's love of Pinedale meant that he would move there, but would have to commute to jobs up to 125 miles away.
Everybody told me it wouldn't work. My kids that were at home, ex-wife, banker, friends, neighbors, relatives, "Can't do this, it won't work." What I heard ever since I was a little kid, that if you want it bad enough, you go out and work for it. In America, you can get it. This was something I thought would work, and I wanted to try it. Originally, the little building here was opened up, and I think it was open for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It went under and sat around, and then I come back in and bought it. People thought it was a car lot. There was like 20 wrecked cars sitting out here. I had people coming up when I first started selling hamburgers asking if they could buy engine parts. After 2 or 3 years of working this and construction to keep this alive, this started paying for itself, so I done it full time.
By the time Tommy was interviewed, he actually only had to work the summer months at King Cone, and then spent Pinedale's frigid winters fishing and scuba diving off the coast of Baja California. It's not clear when since the drive-in started that it had been branded as a roadkill place, but it was an image that Tommy really, really worked at.
One of the ranchers that lives out here had a couple of cows that died, and they were bloated up to about 3 times their normal size. And he was going to take them up and use them for bear baits. But he pulled up out here in the front of the drive-in, and I jumped out there with my butcher knife and chef's hat, and we took a couple of pictures of them out in front of the sign that said "Home the Roadkill Burger."
You could have a lot of fun with this.
Oh, I have. It's a fun place. It's a fun idea.
Mark asks if Tommy's joking has ever convinced anybody that they really are making food from roadkill.
I have every now and then. I get people from the east who truly convinced that I sell stuff that I pick up off the highway. Twice I've been turned into the Game and Fish for selling game animals.
To the best of my understanding, it's illegal to sell dead or living game animals in Wyoming, regardless of how the dead ones died. When you see restaurants advertising that they have elk and deer and all of that, they purchase that meat from farms where these traditionally wild animals are raised for that purpose. Apparently, some of Tommy's more believing or outraged visitors reported him to the Game and Fish, if he's not just joking about that, too.
Do you think you lose any business on account of it?
No, get business. If somebody walks off from here truly believing that I sell roadkill, they tell everybody they see. And 99 people out of 100 are intelligent enough to know that they've just been shammed, and so they come to see what happened.
Have you ever had anybody drive up here, some kids, just as a practical joke, and said, here's some more burgers for you.
Right? They never throw it down because I'll kill them if they do, because the health department would close me.
Was there any problem with your naming this place Home of the Roadkill Burger?
I don't think the name ever caused a problem, but as you can see, I have some rather bright colors out here, and I colored up some rocks. And I did have one of the city councilmen at that time come up and tell me that they didn't really fit in with the scheme of things. At this point in time, he's one of my better customers.
Has Pinedale accepted you?
I think so. I do. A lot of people in Pinedale come in. A lot of people now send people here.
One struggle that Tommy faced is what many businesses in Wyoming and other parts of the country continue to face today: finding help.
You try and get the class valedictorian, the cheerleader, that type of thing, sure, but you try and every year get one or two kids that have some problems. Some problems at home, some problems wherever. And you see if you can't help them.
You've got a good heart.
Somebody had to help me once. I've got kids that worked for me 8-9 years ago, and they'll come in here now and see that I'm in a bind and say, gosh, you don't have any help, I'll come in and help out tonight. I've had that happen. I've had one of the mothers will come by and say, you're short on help or something, come in here and work. I've had it happen a lot.
A lot of what motivates Tommy, aside from grossing people out a little, seems to be altruism.
When I was a kid and I lived in Iowa, I had a guy that had a corner grocery store. Well, we didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid. When we go into the grocery store there, old Willie always made sure that I had an ice cream cone, a piece of candy, or a pop-up, or something. And I guess one of my dreams, and I've done that here, I give away a lot of ice cream cones.
Do you?
See a lot of kids smiling when they leave, little kids. Maybe someday, when I'm gone, maybe some of the little kids will say, I remember him, he gave me ice cream, I had a lady come in that was a retired school teacher the other day. So we gave her an ice cream cone. She went up and told 4 different people. But with this particular old lady, it hit a nerve. She was super happy. I had 3 or 4 people come back that day and tell me how happy she was about that and how it made her day. Well, now, if I sold a 50-cent ice cream cone to her, I'd have got 50 cents. If I gave it to her, it probably cost me 12 cents or 13 cents or, whatever it is. And for 13 cents, if you can make somebody's day, ain't worth it. That's the kind of attitude that'll make a little business work. You gotta be decent to people. Right up there. Why don't you pull that ticket off?
What Mark pulls down is a handwritten tab for 12 ice cream cones bought on credit by a community group.
Called up, wanted to know if they could charge stuff and so I'd bill it out to them. Is it dated?
No, but it's the bill is for $6.18.
No, we won't use it anyway. I'll throw it away.
Something else cool about how Tommy ran his business was how he handled hard times. If the bigger economic picture is not doing well, you would think that it would become really easy to decrease the quality or the amount of your ingredients to make a bigger profit margin.
When times are tough, what do you look for? For a bargain? Yeah. We'll give them a bargain. Give them as good a deal as you can. I make the hamburgers a little bit bigger. I put a little more milk in the milkshakes. If you want to screw everybody one time through, I guess you can get away with it, but one time through, they don't come back. There's a lot of things people like about this place, and they don't know what it is. They just know there's a different atmosphere. And other than that, it's 12:15, and it's time to go home.
Is it that late?
Yes.
How long have we been talking?
Well, I closed at 9 o'clock. And we started about 8.
Did we?
Well, yeah, I was open for an hour after you started talking to me.
That's right.
I was taking pictures and sleeping food. So you put 4 hours in on me, so I expect to get a lot of free advertising, a lot of kickbacks, a lot of payoffs. I think that I ought to be some way made rich off of this.
By the way, the payoff will come later.
Okay, thank you. I have that on tape, right?
I don't have good information on where Tommy Harkness is now. It is a fact that the King Cone did close, and after a series of owners, David Payne now owns the building where the King Cone was, but it's at a new location and has been rebranded as Dave's Last Stand. By the way, do you remember how Tommy said, either as a joke or maybe he was telling the truth, that he had been reported to the Game and Fish for selling wild game? I am going to take a second real quick to read a press release from the Wyoming Department of Transportation and I think the Wyoming Department of Game and Fish. It begins, collecting roadkill? There's an app for that. The Wyoming Game and Fish Department and the Wyoming Department of Transportation recently launched new features to the Wyoming 511 mobile app to send authorization for those seeking to collect roadkill. And this thing was dated February 7th, 2022. It is not, an April Fool's press release. It really does have information in there basically saying if you're going to collect roadkill, you need to be careful, be safe. And I believe not only do you have to have the app, but you actually have to use it to report and claim, the roadkill you're picking up. Again, you cannot sell what you pick up, though. So if you're listening to this somewhere, Tommy, I don't think you'd be able to reopen your restaurant. And for those of you who might be wanting to follow Tommy's lead, you can't sell it. If this is something you are really interested in, though, please download the Wyoming 511 app or go ahead and go to the press release that I'll include in the description so you know all of the rules and regulations and everything about it. I'm not being paid to share this. I just thought, in the true spirit of this show about unusual and odd things often in Wyoming, that it was worth a share. If roadkill is not your thing, but you would still like to be close to this story or get to see Pinedale, which is an amazing town, please stop in at Dave's Last Stand. It is at 310 East Pine Street there in Pinedale. If you'd like to visit and try their food out, please check the website that I've included in the description for their hours and all of that. Unfortunately, none of their food is roadkill themed. However, it would be a great way to support a local business. I would like to thank Tommy Harkness for his interview and his candidness and his making us laugh and squirm a little bit at the same time. If you're listening, Tommy, thank you so much. If you're no longer with us and one of your relatives is listening to this, thank you. I'm so glad he left this interview, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I also want to give a shout out again to my friend Mark Junge, who I think should be bestowed the honor of Godfather of the Oral Histories. He isn't the only guy who collected oral histories in Wyoming, but holy cow, he really hustled to get all of these things recorded. And if he hadn't, a lot of the people who gave these interviews have now passed away, and we wouldn't have this information and this look into their life and what life was like for them at the time. So thank you so much, Mark, and thank you for being so supportive of the show. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to more of them, please do a search for That Doesn't Happen Every Day. Every day is 2 words in this case, and you can find the archive of all of the past shows and listen to them completely for free. Please support KHOL out of Jackson. They play the show every Wednesday. I hope that you'll check it out, and I hope to have a new episode to you in about 2 weeks. Thanks.